So good afternoon. I'm here with Monica Kretschmer with Canadian Business Chicks, the founder of this lovely women's organization that is all about empowering women, helping them to learn, to grow, to be inspired. It's the organization that every fall puts on the Women of Inspiration program with lovely awards being given out to so many deserving women. And then in between is the regular brekkie meetings with the Canadian Business Chicks brand as well, and inviting really interesting speakers. Last month we had the winner of the Mompreneur of the Year award, Lisa Mundell-Lawrence, speaking. And there's always a high energy in that room, and women who are succeeding in business, in their own business, using creativity, innovation, leveraging their talents and skills. There's not very many that are in sort of multi-level marketing type businesses. And it's lovely to see those ladies intermingling with the professionals in the corporate roles. So welcome, Monica. So glad you could make time this afternoon for this interview.
Thank you. I wouldn't miss it. So excited to be here, Yvonne.
Yeah. So why don't we just spend a couple of minutes? Some of the members who are going to be looking at this will obviously recognize you at Canadian Business Chicks, and some of the audience members don't know who you are. So spend a couple of minutes just talking a little bit more about who you are and what you do.
Okay. So welcome, everyone. Thank you for the wonderful, warm intro, Yvonne. My name is Monica Kretschmer. I'm the founder and CEO of Canadian Business Chicks, and I launched Canadian Business Chicks May 2014. And I like to say that I jumped off the cliff and literally jumped in because I had a really, really clear vision for what it is that I wanted to create, and a big why for why I wanted to create it. And I figured that if I was going to dip my toes in just a little bit, that's the end result that I would get. Would be just dipping my toes in. So I ran and I actually jumped off the cliff, and I recall starting Canadian Business Chicks, and I think everybody can remember that first time that you actually clicked the switch in your website, hoping that, well, not hoping, you're thinking, oh my gosh, how am I going to service all these people that are going to come to my website, right? And little do you know that there's crickets coming from the website. Nobody even knows you exist. Okay, so that's point one. Yep. You think you've started this incredible business, but nobody has a clue who you are, what you offer, or where to find you.
Yeah, it's all about the traffic strategies, not
It's amazing, right? You just think that you put all this time and energy and presto, it magically happens, but it doesn't. Right. So what's really interesting is through Canadian Business Chicks, one of the platforms that we have and that we've built is a business directory listing. So we can find you and we can connect you, and you can share about what it is that you're doing and link back to your business. So there's all these layers of visibility built into the community. And then probably one of the value propositions that we've sort of grown into is building those authentic connections like you talk about, Yvonne, because we're not just inviting women to the table, just any woman. We have a value set. So everything from the bottom up to our, from our branding and our program, from the very, very first time that we jumped off the cliff there and launched, it was value-based: courage, confidence, commitment, and integrity. And with those values and that foundation, we've built a community attracting like-minded professional women, business leaders, professionals that have that alignment in the values. And that's what we built our wonderful Boss Chicks Authentic Mentorship program on, as well, is those core values. So, you know, it's really fantastic to see the growth over the past, we're going into our fourth year, 2018 will be our fourth year. So that's really exciting. But you know, it's grown organically. And the reason is because I'm in the trenches, just like everybody else. Like I feel the pains and aches, and I get to experience that and share those learnings with everybody else along that journey. So I think that's probably, you know, reason number two. Number one, I'm like 1,000% invested. Okay, we're for profit, and this is not a subcommittee. This is my life and then some. And number two, I'm in the trenches. You know, I know what it takes to actually up the game to the next level, and to continually have that momentum and power to keep growing and succeeding. So,
yeah.
That is Canadian Business Chicks, and I think you alluded a little bit to Woman of Inspiration, and that, again, happened very organically. It wasn't like, hey, let's have an awards program, and this is exactly what's being built. The first one was actually built out of saying thank you to a woman of inspiration in my world. And from that very, very first event, there was a need recognized to celebrate and recognize women that are doing incredible work in the community. And I am always so amazed by the quality of women and what we're doing. But you know what? You don't know where these women are hiding. Like, they're everywhere. But until you get them to a stage of like Woman of Inspiration or into a community like Canadian Business Chicks, you have no idea until you peel away those layers of the onion to see what's behind. And wow, like these overnight successes that have actually been in the works for 10 years, there are a lot of them. And our stories are all so similar. So it's really cool to see how the company's growing and the type of women that we're bringing together. And, you know, like game changers that want to go global and do some big work out there. So it's really cool to be kind of in that space with all these great leaders.
Yeah. Well, as you know, that is the work that I do too, which is how we ended up working together, is working with mission-inspired women entrepreneurs who are ready to add a social enterprise element to their business, who are ready to grow, expand, scale up, whether it's going national, going global, add team members, add the systems, put together the joint venture affiliate relationships that are needed in order to be successful. And it was a pleasure to be on the selection committee this year for the Women of Inspiration Awards. That's one of my contributions to the organization. And so I got to see firsthand the caliber of the women. And I had to say it was very, very hard not to score 10s on each of the category elements. And I'm certainly really a proud member of Canadian Business Chicks, and really enjoying the energy and the relationships coming from that. So thank you for making time this afternoon.
Of course.
This is an opportunity to connect for me with the book launch coming up before the end of the year, with the whole focus of the book. The working title is Word Power. And it's really about helping women to use different language concepts to have more confident conversations, to have more confidence in general when they're asking for something, that they actually get it in a way that is win-win, that they can engage and empower their teams so they can grow their business. And it's all about language. And as you know from some of the other conversations we've had, there is a bit of a history around words. I won't go into that story in this recording. Suffice to say that words make a huge difference, and words are super powerful. So maybe we could kick it off with, from your perspective, in your experience, either personal experience or gained from some of the interviews I know you've done with various women in the Inspiration Awards categories, other interviews in the community, what would be maybe one or two words that you've experienced or heard are making an impact on women gaining confidence? Let's start there. What makes a difference, do you think?
So I'm going to go peel back the layer of the onion just a little bit, because I think that behind the word has to be that belief system.
Yep.
And I believe that for those words to be top of mind always, it's time to step back and contemplate exactly what it is that you're thinking about, and be intentional in the direction that you're going. So, for example, before you're going in to sort of pitch, whether that's a book deal or whether that's a new client or whether that's to build a strategy session with a corporate partner, to be able to sit back and actually visualize that conversation playing out.
Yep.
How do you want to be perceived? Of course, we all want to put our best foot forward. So I think sort of that visualization goes kind of in the back end to the words that you project. And, you know, I think it's really important that I use the core values all the time. I infuse them into absolutely everything. And so our core values play a big piece of that power of the words, you know, because they're not just fancy words on a piece of paper, you know. So the courage, the confidence, the commitment, the integrity. So the actions that follow the words are also very important as well. So the visualization, then the words, and then the action.
Yeah.
So it's like almost like a 3-part series.
And that's so important. I do talk in the book about self-talk, and certainly the words that come out have to be in alignment with who you are. So in coaching conversations with my clients, I can share tips on, you know, you might want to sort of phrase it something like this, but it has to be your language. So, you know, what would be the sentence? What would be the question? What would be the ask that you want to make? And what's the intention behind it? Is it about a win-lose kind of mindset where, you know, you're getting something out of it? Or is it about how can you serve? How can you share? How can you collaborate? Such a different energy.
And, you know, you talk about the words themselves. I really like the word value.
Yeah.
So it goes to personal, how do you value yourself? Yep. And how do you value the person that you're talking to, your interviewer, you know, the people that you draw into your world? It's how do you value yourself and others? And I think that word value is brilliant. It's so opening, and it's so, I haven't ran across one woman in all of the interviews that I've done where they haven't really just, that has just got them to the core. When somebody has just validated all their hard work and put a value to all their years of focus, and you never know how important that is to hear on a daily basis of how much value you add to my world.
Right.
It's just such a small but powerful word, is that value. How do I value you?
I echo that. It's huge. I think that the more self-development I do, the more frequently I run across the concept being presented by the seminar leader, workshop leader, you know, the concept of, am I enough? Or I'm not enough, you know, the doubting, right? I'm not enough. So that validation, I've underlined that as a word to go back and make sure that it's either in this book or in the subsequent book. But value, I know, is in there already. And with your permission, I might add a little more from a quote from this conversation.
I would be delighted, because hands down, and as far as the recognition and the celebration from, you know, when I did 66 of the interviews, you know, everyone was very humbled by being recognized. They didn't know the ripple effect of all the work that they were doing around them and to inspire others, but it was just validated all the work that they've always done. So, I mean, that word is so powerful and so strong. So that's why I love it so much.
Yeah. Value.
Value.
We all like to provide value, and when we know what that value is and we can describe it in language that we know resonates for the other party, whether that's a collaboration partner, a potential member, you know, joint venture participant, it is much more meaningful, because you don't have to sell anything. All you're doing is showing the value, and it's an invitation then for a collaborative conversation. Would you like to take this further? Would you like to continue developing this? You know, what would you see as next steps? And what I find is, in a typical sales cycle, you get objections. Well, you don't have objections when all you're doing is showcasing your value, because there's nothing to object to, because it's a future potential state that we're talking about, possibility. So it's so powerful.
And I think one that there's a partnership there that you're working together to achieve. Yeah. And it's not a one-sided conversation in that perspective. So it just opens the door to so many beautiful things.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the reasons I Really enjoy the networking element at the Breckies because it is about authentic connections.
Yes.
And there are very few conversations that I recall that are about, me, win, 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 me, 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 me. It is that we conversation of how can we collaborate, how can we add value to what each other are doing. Maybe there's somebody that I'd like to introduce you to that, you might not be a great fit for working together with me or with me right now. However, here's a connection that I am happy to make for you. So it's lovely. What about on the flip side? What would you say are words that disempower or words that knock women off base, or perhaps it's something that personally, is a trigger word for you?
Oh, geez, that's tough. I always like to focus on the positive. As you're sitting here talking, I was already on to my next positive word that I wanted to share, which was momentum. Okay, so maybe I can dig backwards from momentum, and I think I'm on to something here. So when I talk about sort of the direction of the company and where we're going, how there's this like ladder, I'm climbing, and it just seems effortless, and there seems to be flow. And I mean, we can talk all day long on flow, business and personal, but that is a real true thing that happens when you're in stride with everything and you're aligned in everything that you do. But there's a difference between pushing and momentum.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So and I think that we can all sort of, so I guess that's the negative one, is let me just sit here for just a minute. It's the push. It's the, it's a constant struggle and push. And
I call it striving.
It's the striving, but there's a word that I've used before that I don't use anymore. And maybe that's why it's brainwashed out of my vocabulary. I like momentum better.
Yeah.
I feel momentum growing because it's open to opportunities rather than pushing. Yeah. And pushing seems to be so confining and so much like work. And if it's like work, it's not going to happen, right? Yeah, I have to shift that mindset into those other words that choose to be so much more freeing and liberating, like momentum, momentum rather than push.
It has a very different energy, and I'm so glad that you brought it up. If I think about push, and this is part of the reason why I ended up rebranding my company 3 years ago, because it was that energy of striving and breaking through, and it was very much a push energy. And when we push against stuff,
yes,
what we're going to find is resistance. We're creating resistance instead of going with flow and finding the things that are working and doing more of those. So what's working really well? How could it be even better? Are two of my favorite questions. Well, you know this, coaching conversations, because it's positive psychology. So when you were thinking about the opposite of momentum, yeah, push, great word. We'll keep that as a one to not think about, to not include in how we go about our business, because it just doesn't work. And that's what creates objections.
Yes. And that's, we may not verbalize that word push or verbally, but we may be thinking it behind the scenes. Yes. So even the words that we don't choose to speak out loud, the ones that we speak in our heads, also are very powerful. So if we can reframe some of those words before they even come out, the mental chatter in our heads, that will sort of, help us boost our confidence as well.
Yeah. And coming from that place of positive intention is so powerful, because it's the energy that comes before the words even are out of our mouths. And it's that energy of collaboration and serving versus an energy of selling. Big difference.
Absolutely. And what the interesting thing is, I think some of the most successful people that I've had the opportunity to sort of be in the circle with, and one recently was a young lady, Reagan Hillier, and a young woman, mid-30s, beautiful soul inside and out. but she's built a business from $200,000 a month to $1.2 million a month. And you know what? She is of service. Now, she said, here's an important thing too, is that she's also invested a lot of money into her own personal development.
Right.
Again, which echoes the need for mentorship, for coaching, for, putting yourself into those arenas with others that just are that much more ahead of where you are to save time and money and stress. Right? So anyways, I just have to share that with you.
Yeah. Well, you and I both have been on a number of, I call them adventures, because that was my word for the year. 2017 was adventure. And, whether it's the high-level entrepreneur camp in the summer, the coaching activities with my coach in LA, the speakers retreat in Phoenix. I mean, the list is going on and on. It's getting bigger. And you've just come back from A-Fest and other 3-day events. So I know that you also appreciate that when we put ourselves first and invest and choose to invest in ourselves with some of the leaders that are in a particular field, it does pay dividends. Because as entrepreneurs, if we're sitting thinking, well, I can't afford to hire someone to do this, if you flip it around the other way and say, can I afford not to? What is that taking away from your business potential? If you're down in the details of the, in the weeds, if you like, of your business, go hire an expert, get them to be working on it. It's going to end up costing less at the end of the day, and you end up getting a higher caliber result. So I know you're a fan of investing in yourself.
Yeah, it's the only way to do it. And I guess that word, I can't, it's like nails on a chalkboard to me, because you can do anything you set your intention to. Yes. Anything. The possibilities are only limited to the 4 walls of here.
Well, not only that, but as we evolve, I think, and become more and more aware, awake, however you phrase it, we realize that initially the first level question that goes from I can't is to how. And then it advances from how, where you don't even worry about how it's going to happen. You just know that this is the end goal, and you share that with the universe and manifest it. And the universe takes care of the how. And for those listening, I'm not religious. I am spiritual, though. And that's my belief. And I've seen that happen this year over and over and over again, where I've requested help with something and whoosh, it's showed up.
Well, and I think the power through that, Yvonne, is I myself, as you know, I'm spiritual as well. And it's so powerful. I can't even tell you how many people that are changing the world and doing incredible things. There is a higher source that they believe in. And it's just, you're in that energy and you feel it. You get goosebumps because it's a different energy, because it's thoughts and power of words and choices that we're making, and choosing to, and our belief systems that are actually making these opportunities sort of come into our world. So yeah, for anybody who's listening who has not dipped their toes into finding out about that, we all have that power to have that heightened sense of consciousness. Everyone does. So
well,
very powerful.
As we get closer to the end of the year, I mean, I'm certainly putting those questions out to people and saying, are you seeing the results that you wanted to see this year? And if not, pick up the phone, let's have a conversation about it, so that 2018 doesn't end up being the same, more of the same. Because if you want to see change, you have to do something different. Otherwise, you're obviously going to get the same result. And one of the things that I also was wondering, Monica, as we sort of get to the end of this interview, is in terms of connecting with you or learning more about the organization, just wondering if there's a way that anyone listening who's feeling the excitement and energy around Business Chicks, if they can get involved in some way.
Absolutely. So I would recommend running to your computer and tapping in CanadianBusinessChicks.com. Now on there, we also have a sign up for our weekly newsletter. So I encourage you to sign up for the weekly newsletter. But if you are at all thinking you want to up your game, meet a great community of women, and really be a part of this journey with us, because we're going to rock it out. I've got some big juicy visions and I'm not stopping. So if you want to become a part of our community, we have membership and I welcome you to join. We actually have a membership blitz. My goal is 250 new members to the nest. That's what we call our community, before the end of the year. So, you know, the gift of connection is pretty darn important. And if you want to, you know, gift yourself, or, you know, suggest, you know, to Santa in your world that you might like to have a membership that really is part of your personal business and personal growth to help you through, is, you know, we have this wonderful membership blitz going on here soon. So with like a really, 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 really great deal. So I'm going to put the details included in the bottom of this here, and also in our newsletter. So watch out for that coming out very soon. But I've never done this before. So I am discounting our membership because I want to spread the word, and I really believe in the power of community, and I want to really do some amazing things next year. So we're opening the door and saying, for those of you that are sitting on the fence, get off the fence.
If you've been sitting on the edge of the nest and haven't yet jumped in, or
jump into the nest,
hatched an egg, let's do it.
Let's do it.
Well,
and also we have our mentorship program. So, you know, there's lots of learnings once you get into the nest. And then I've got a template working out for a mastermind as well. So we can, you know, up the game on all of these incredible business leaders that share their knowledge and collaborate at that level.
Yeah. Well, I think there's been some really interesting ideas floating around today. So partly words, positive or negative words, and also word concepts, huge learnings around word concepts and intention, value, flow. It's been a lovely opportunity for an interview. So thank you so much for sharing. And certainly when we are getting closer towards the end of the year, I'm looking at my calendar too, because I'm going to be announcing when the book is actually going to be available in print. So it's exciting times for both of us.
Very cool. Well, and as I'm sitting here smiling my face off, I do have to say, smile when smile when you're saying these words, when you're sharing the words, because that energy goes into the words as well when you smile. So I just wanted we didn't touch on that, but there's so many different ways that you can enhance the power of that word, that through thought, through belief, through actions. So anyways, just smile. Thank you so much, Yvonne. I'm looking forward to the book, and you're doing great work.
Thank you so much. Appreciate your time, and have a great afternoon.
Sounds great. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.